Okay. Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit by Techno-Dad and Joe and Tell. I received mine maybe a week or two ago, probably 2 weeks now, and I just checked it out really quickly just to see what they had on there, and it looks as though they had everything that I needed to calibrate my system. So yeah, this is Joe. He reviews pretty much everything, hi-fi, surround sound, you name it. So yeah, he's got some really good videos out. Joe's really hardcore into like measuring and measuring speakers, the new ways of measuring speakers, EQing, everything. So it's really interesting, some of the stuff he does. Techno-Dad, your source for 4K home theater reviews and setups. There we go. So yeah, he's a big home theater guy too. I think he does the same, but I don't think he reviews speakers and stuff like that. I think it's more like, yeah, like receivers and stuff like that, and getting into TVs. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so these two guys really hardcore into this. Surprised to see Joe on physical media. I always thought Joe was a streamer, so yeah, it's good to see some physical media stuff. But it's good to see community guys being able to get a disc like this actually made. This is actually something I would love to do. Not so much with test patterns and audio things like this, but like just to get something released, So it's really cool to see. And I think physical media needs more of this, like setup discs, demo discs, and things like that. I just think this is really cool. So yeah, a little about my home theater though. So this is mine. It's ELACs, B6s, floor standers. I just felt the bookshelves were too small for the front, and I didn't want to put them on a stand or anything like that. I don't mind stands for the rears and stuff like that, but the front I kind of want something a bit more meaty. I think music sounds better with floor standers than bookshelves. Generally speaking, they sound fuller, warmer, things like that. I've got two subs, ELAC sub 3030s, 12 inches. Now default, these don't really sound that good. They have the power to do whatever you need, but I just don't think they sound good. Another thing is there's a phone app that you can use with these to measure the near field and the in-seat response, and it tries to balance out the two. I don't think it was any good. It's just I mean, it depends on how they want you to hear the subwoofer and how they think it's supposed to sound in a seat. I just didn't like it. So then once I got onto manual calibration using REW and things like that, everything changed. And that was a learning process, though. For me, I didn't just instantly pick this up. Like, it took probably about a year, 6 months to a year, definitely, but definitely probably to a year of learning this and like how to get this properly done, measured. Also, what do you like? Because that is a big thing with home theater, and that is we all like different things. We all want different sounds. So to just measure in a almost like a passive way, this is how you should set up your speakers, I don't necessarily agree with that. And we all like different amounts of bass. I would say, I guess I would say I'm pretty much a bass junkie. So I run my subs pretty hot, I guess you could say. It definitely shakes the house, that's for sure. But yeah, that's it. Now at the back I've got the B6s. And what I wanted to do here was to get the same sound for the Atmos speakers as well. Now this is an Auro 3D layout, but it can still work with Atmos, and I think it works quite well. There is some slight tuning adjustments though you need to do, well, not tuning adjustments, just with the channels and the volumes and stuff and the cuts. I feel as though with them being like this, they need to be slightly louder. And as well, I don't think the brackets I'm using here allow for a good enough angle to come down here. And I think this is why I'm having to increase the volume. In any case, there isn't a great deal of information all of the time in Atmos speakers, so even if these were set louder, just from an amplification point of view, I don't think I haven't run into any issues yet, with sound volume being too loud or anything like that. And the difference between the volume of these is actually only about 1 dB. So yeah, I use the same speakers all around, and on the fronts too. The goal here for me is to have a system that is tonally matched, or at least as close as possible. Now, these are the same speakers, right? But they sound different, I've fully calibrated them and everything, but they still have that tonality difference between them. That's just the way it is, These speakers, though, for going all around, they're pretty close. Another thing I notice as well is this speaker is slightly brighter than this speaker. That's really just the way it is, unless you calibrate speakers independently, which I personally don't advise. I've done it, and I got better results from calibrating 2 speakers at a time. I don't know what that is about, but I think it is potentially something to do with the like microphones like the UMIK-1, where they don't just point into one area to grab a sound. They're trying to grab sound from everywhere, and having 2 speakers play the same sound that are the same, even though there might be slightly, there might be minor differences between each speaker, it gives you a better tonal average. That's what I think. So this is why the surround speakers, the Atmos speakers, I always did together. Got a really good sound from it. The subwoofers are not the same distance from the wall. Some people are probably going to pick up on this and say, I don't know why he's doing that. The reason I did that is because I measured probably 20 to 25 different placements here, just in this area. This right here was the absolute best response I could get. 100% best response. I was like, towards the end, I was going in inches, backwards, forwards, side to side, just to get exactly where it was, and this was the best response. There's probably about a foot and maybe a little bit more away from the wall. This one though was only 8 inches, and might be a little bit further forward, like an inch or so. I think this was like 18 inches from this back wall here, and maybe I can't remember what this was, but yeah, there's a wall that goes all the way down the side of the room here, but on this side there's 2 doors. So my thought process here is, I'm sure because bass has to reflect off of walls, I'm sure there's differences there, and this is why this placement worked best, like exactly here. So these speakers are all at the same angle. If my seating position is here, they're all angled to 15 degrees, which is, I've heard what, when they was making the speakers, Andrew Jones, what he tuned everything for. So, this is 15 degrees, this is 15 degrees, the others, all to this point here, right? So that as soon as I found that out, I was like, all right, I'm recalibrating everything. I'm going to calibrate with a new method, and once I did that, I never looked back. So in the end, my system probably took me 3 to 4 calibrations to get 100% correct. The speakers themselves, not the subs. The subs, so that was like that might have been 15. The thing is, with the subwoofer specifically, you learn things as you go. Like even using REW, you can watch as many videos as you want online about like how to calibrate subs and that, and it gives you an excellent idea of what to do. But once you're doing it yourself, you really just need to get it in your mind, like how you do it. The steps that are required for you to do it. So yeah, that's enough about me and everything, and about my system. And by the way, yeah, just real quick, I use Multi-EQX, which is an Odyssey app, but it's not like the regular Odyssey. It's this is completely manual. So you measure with REW, and you put everything into here. And I have some sneaky things going on with this. And once I found out about it, it significantly improved the sound. I won't go into it, but basically what it was stacking EQ. So with Multi-EQX, you can stack EQs over and over again. And the reason you can do this with this app is because the app or Odyssey is continuously balancing things constantly, which in my opinion is excellent. You can actually get better sound doing this. That means you could stack literally 1,000 EQ measurements on top of each other to fine-tune a system, but the volume level would never change because this constantly is balancing. I'm not sure if others do that. Obviously Mini DSP with the subwoofer, once you bring your levels down by -15 or -10, I mean, I guess you can boost the whole channel back up, but it's not automatic. With this, it's automatic, and right now I've got this set up perfectly. That's the thing. Once I got my EQs and everything done, and I had this sound, that's the thing. I almost don't want to mess with it anymore. So yeah, so that's everything really, I think. Yeah, the disc. So there's an intro here by Techno-Dad, and basically the disc is actually quite loud from my experience with discs like this. Excuse me. And like the Spears and Munsell disc, which is Blu-ray, not the 4K. The Blu-ray has audio about 10 dB lower than this. Now, for me, sound is all relative, so it doesn't actually matter to me what the volume is, as long as the volume isn't clipping, and you can tell in some of the displays that he has, it's nowhere near clipping. My assumption is the volume is at -12, which is the default volume actually of REW, because that's what the test tones sound like. REW RTA test tones to me. That's what they sound like. So, but yeah, he's just saying here, if the sound is relatively loud, and if you break your speakers, it's not his fault. It is your fault. So I would definitely go through all of these just to check things like that. But The level matching thing, I didn't actually change the volume. I thought to me it was fine. Um, so the call, yeah. Let me just go through a few of these really quick. So call outs is stuff like a person, which is Techno-Dad. He's calling out, front, left, center, right. The channels, the rear channels behind you, and stuff like that. Surround right and surround left. This is really just this is more like diagnostics, really, just to say, hey, do you have your system set up correctly? Things like that. Potentially you may not have a receiver that actually has any test tones to figure out that type of stuff. Um, you know, so. But the big one I went to immediately is level matching. That's and again, I just want to show you how I used the disc. Some of this other stuff I didn't use because I knew in my head what I wanted already, and that's really the type of person I am. But after level matching, I needed something else, and this disc has that. Uh, so yeah, level matching. You can choose whatever layout that you want, and I think this is enough layouts to pretty much cover anybody. Um, with the level matching, maybe some others, call outs as well, things like that. They're channel based, right? So I actually talked to Techno-Dad about this because I thought it was a bug, and that was sometimes I like to just see what others do. But I have a 7.1.4 system, so if I play the 5-channel version, the rear surrounds actually come out of the back surrounds. And I think Auro 3D does the same thing, because Auro 3D only uses 5 channels at the back, and I swear it does the same thing, something like that. Now I thought this was a bug at first, but this is how a 5.1 system is supposed to sound, and on a 5.1.4 or 6 system too, that's the sounds would come out perfectly on the surround sounds perfectly. So definitely make sure you are using the correct layout, whatever your system is. These level matching. This level matching is designed for that, because these are channel based. They're not, so yeah. So I went for the 7.1.4. Let's just move on real quick. I'll just show you what
front left.
Then it goes to center. And it goes through all the channels.
Front right.
So yeah, that's it. And it's just giving that like random pink noise through each channel. And for me, this gets you 90. I think it gets you about 95% of the way there. Because a lot of the time, I think, my systems and generally me understanding this as well as sounds behind you are a little bit more difficult to get right, I found. So yeah, I calibrated my system with that. And how I did this was, instead of putting things on the trim, so like on a Denon receiver, you can put things on the actual channels themselves for, say, I have mine as 4K Blu-ray, and 4K Blu-ray can be, you know, the rears can be like +2 and things like that. I didn't do that initially. So what I do is I go into the receiver, make changes in the receiver so it applies to every single input. There's a test tone thing there, and you can change them there, right? Now, I didn't use their test tones, so if, say, the rear channels needed, like, say, +1, I did it there instead. And the reason I did that is because this gives you a good baseline then of getting every single channel correct. I think that is needed. Now, I will say this, though, that not every single device is set up the same. So even though it's HDMI, and you would expect, hey, a Roku to sound the same as a Panasonic UB9000, and then another Blu-ray, another 4K player, say like the Revon X200, which I also have. I have two 4K players. They're not the same. I can run the test pattern, or not the test pattern, but the measurements through my Panasonic UB9000, and then I put it on the Revon, and they are slightly different. Now, for some reason, on the Revon, the surrounds are, I can't remember what it was, but it's either they're low in volume on the rears or they're slightly higher. I can't remember. It's only by about half a dB, but that does exist. So, when I listen to music on the Revon, that is Dolby Atmos, my rears are 0.5 higher. Now, again, this could be different from device to device. The reason I wanted to get the Panasonic UB9000 as a good baseline is because that's what the majority of stuff is what I listen to and watch movies on. So that's the one I need to be perfect. So, if a Roku is like, half a dB out on the surrounds, I don't really care, because I really don't watch. I don't. Generally speaking, I don't stream. Everything's physical media for me, so if it's slightly out, I don't really care. I'll get it as good as I can. But yeah. So now polarity tests and things like that, I didn't use the disc for that. But that's there's one thing there, polarity test. Just real quick though, how that works is a sound is played, say, out the left speaker and then out the center speaker, and you hear the difference between the polarity and things like that, and it comes in and out. Timing tests, I didn't use any of that. Again, this could be very useful for people that don't have access to I don't know, it just could be useful for some reason. I can't quite think now, but if one thing as well I've been thinking about is, can some of these actually replace some of the stuff that's in REW? I don't really know. But again, I kind of knew what I wanted to go for anyway, so I just didn't bother with these. Now, crossovers, again, good for evaluation. Just to see how your system is handling. I just tested the front left speaker. It plays test tones from 250, maybe to 220, 200, and just all the way down. And if there's a suck out anywhere, you should be able to hear that. So I played mine. To me, it sounded perfectly all the way down to like 25 or 15 hertz, around that. Obviously, I can't hear 15 hertz, not on my system, but down to around 25 hertz, I thought it sounded perfectly fine. So with no suck outs in that. But I've done all of the EQ and everything like that, so mine should be relatively decent anyway. Now, this is actually really useful. The reason is because you can work out like phantom centers and things like that. So if you had a test tone playing through the stereo left and right speakers, we're hoping that the sound comes directly in the middle. is your right speaker fighting with your left, and the sound is slightly somewhere else, you would be able to judge that. Now, the reason this is good is because you could just say, I've level matched, I don't need to hear any of this. In some cases, that is potentially true, right? You could do that, and again, but I think this gets you 95% of the way there. Some of these, I guess you could call them real-world examples, might be excellent to work out. Say, my front and center, my center speakers, I can hear my center speaker more than this speaker, and the sound should be in the middle of those two, and it isn't. What can I do about it? So I think that's really good. Another one is when you have to do it for the surrounds. Now, front right, front high. See, this is excellent, right? The reason this is excellent is because working out, if you know your fronts are correct, and you're a little worried, say, about your height speakers, where is the sound coming from when both of them are played? If you hear that front right speaker more than your heights, then you instantly know. And sometimes just the level matching alone can't actually reveal this. This might be the difference, though, between you've got 95% of the way there, but this might allow you to just fine tune something where the height might needed like half a dB more, and then that's perfect. So I think this is really good. There's more on the other page on here as well. So there's tons of things to test, and there's so much stuff on this disc that I haven't had time to go through every single one of them. But again, it can definitely be useful for working things out about how do sounds from one speaker to the other speaker are sounds where they should be. Tonal balance I didn't do, so I'm honestly not sure what it is. Now, okay, let's play this. Sorry. Okay, now this to me is where it got really interesting. This is like the type of stuff that I wanted. Now this basically, this is ear level, so everything's on the ground, right? And it moves a sound all the way through your system. And this is what I wanted. This is so apart from getting myself 95% of the way there, I wanted this because I want to hear from my own ears. Like, I wouldn't blindly trust 100% my measuring equipment. It's good, I think it's excellent, but I want to hear it too. And this is exactly what I wanted. So let me just show you what it is. Let's fast forward this a bit. So, okay. So yeah, this is moving a sound. If you've got a 7.1 system like I have, it just literally moves the sound all the way around it like this. The reason this is important is because after you've set up all your measurements and then you actually hear the sound of your system with your own ears, does the sound, do you have a perfect volume from, say, your center to your front here, but then you notice a volume difference here going to the rears? Chances are you may. Another thing to think about as well is the way we hear sound. If my brother, for instance, is shouting my name in front of me, as one example, and then he does it, and I'm, he's behind me, there is a slight tonal difference there that only your ears can pick up on, and the UMIK-1 cannot, because the UMIK-1 measures things like, in a 360-degree fashion. So it doesn't really differentiate between a sound behind it and a sound in front, because it's just coming from different directions. But again, my ears, our ears, really, yeah, they're on the side, but they are basically pointing forward, and sounds in front of us are heard slightly differently. So this for me has always kind of been a bit of an issue with getting surround sound to sound exactly as I want. Now, you can do these measurements, and then you could say, so now we're doing it with our own ears, and I would say yes. Or this part of the measurements I did with my own ears. And, luckily for me, the way I have my mic set up and everything like that, I always know that I want slightly more on the rears, because when I get this transition here between the front and the side, if I measure it completely flat, the rears don't have enough push on them for me. I just don't like it. There's just not enough surround sound information for me. So just the way I've got it set up, when I measure exactly where my ears would be, and if that means that if my couch is here, right, and the cushions slightly stick over, and the mic is like just under it, that's just the way it is, because it's more of a real world measurement of, if I put the mic up in an open space where my head wouldn't be, or I remove the cushions, then the sound is going to be different. The sound from the cushion, or my ears being under the cushion, could be 1 to 2 dBs difference in sound. And because I've always thought to myself, when I measure surround sound, should I remove my cushions? And I've done that. I've tried hundreds of different ways of doing it, and I found that keeping cushions there, don't lower your seats. If you could lower seats, right, I wouldn't do any of that. Measure in a real world situation where these are where my cushions actually are, and these are roughly where my ears are going to be, and measure that way. And I've done that, and when I heard this go around, it was the same volume the entire way around. That's what I heard. It was absolutely the same volume. So I've done this for a long, long time now. But it did take me a long time to figure out what type of surround sound that I wanted, and to do it in a measurable way. So yeah, when measuring, I wouldn't, as long as the microphone is at ear height, then if it is minorly being blocked by a cushion that is slightly higher than it, I would not worry about that, because again, you want this to sound, you want to just sit down and be able to hear this perfectly. So, and another thing, why this is great is because I'm after something that validates my measurements, right? And this did that. The way I have the mic set up, the height of the microphone, how I did it, everything like that, this validates that. So I got this perfectly. Now, another thing though is, let's discuss this about what we actually like, right? If anything, I would say I like more surround sound than not surround sound, right? So even on my measurements, what I do is, if anything, I always say this, like if I'm measuring to 75 dB, 75.2 dB, right? If anything, I always measure slightly higher than that. So if you've seen, like with receivers, you can increase the volume by like half a dB at a time. So if you was whatever it may be, 1.5 on the surround sound channels, if you measured 75 point, well, let's just say you measured 75 exactly. Now this may be small, right? It may be a small difference, but for me, when I say if anything, I always measure slightly just one higher than that, just to make sure it actually is louder or just as loud as the front, and it guarantees that. I've measured systems before where I'm like, well, I'm never going to go over, and things like that, and I just don't like that. So for me, if anything, I always put my rears slightly higher anyway, because it's what I like. And again, thinking about the tonal difference between things that sound in the front to out the back. So I don't particularly care if the surround sound is 1 to 2 dB slightly higher. I don't. Because again, some of this is down to taste. But the point of this disc is to make me understand and set my system up better, and this gave it to me. This sound moving around here, when I heard it in the seat, was perfect volume. There might be slight tonal differences, because of the differences in speakers and things like that, but the actual volume was perfect all the way around. So, yeah. So yeah, that just goes round all the way on the ground level. And for me, yeah, this was excellent. This really did solidify everything for me. Because, again, you can trust your measurements, but just make sure that, are you hearing that? Is that what you're hearing? So, because our ears can be slightly different. So, yeah, that was excellent. Now, let me just discuss one thing before I move on. Because after filming... Okay, so this is really interesting, right? I was using the torture test, which I'll show in a minute. The reason I did that is because it's got some excellent... you have tones that go from the low level to the high level. And the reason they're good is because then I can hear the difference between how my front speakers sound and then how a sound moves up to the top, right? That is excellent. But after filming this, I found this 100% height square move. What that is it's essentially the same as the panning, right? It is the same, but it is just in the height channels. And I'm one of those types of people that try and work things out in my mind about like what is actually happening and things like that. So what I said to myself is, if I can get my front Atmos speakers to sound exactly the same as my front left and right speakers in volume, if they sound the same, then this one here, the 100% height moving square, is perfect. It moves, this is only Atmos channels, it moves sound all the way around the room, exactly as you just seen, but in the height channels only. There's no lower sound at all. So if I know my fronts are correct in sound, in volume, absolutely correct, if the sound moves around the rear, is the sound the same volume? That's really it. Now again, you can measure this, but the thing is, in my room, if I measure the difference between the front Atmos and the rear Atmos can be a lot higher in volume. And I'm like, okay, well, so let's lower this. But then when you hear the square moving, you can hear the difference in volume then around the back. And I'm like, that just doesn't sound right. So again, measurements, I think, can only get you so far. And to me, this is where like a real world test comes in really handy to me. I don't care how much I need to increase volume of anything, really, as long as if I hear something and it goes around, that it's perfect. So what I did was the rear height Atmos speakers needed 1 dB. They needed 1 dB more than the front Atmos speakers. And I was like, then the sound went around and it sounded perfect. So I could not understand this without this disc. And for me, that's, I see incredible value to that. This is interesting though. I've always felt this, and I've always put my rear Atmos speakers up like half a dB more, because I'm like, I just don't think I can hear them as well. This disproved that. So now again, this might be the way cushions are behind me, things like that. Sometimes I slouch as well, things like that, just to be comfortable watching a movie. But I don't really care. Again, I want a real world, set my system up for almost like a real world scenario of, it's not just me, this is how I sit in my seat all of the time. I'm not, that's not how it is. I just want to sit casually a lot of the time and know that my sound is equal around. So yeah, I just found this, and it may even be, this one here may even be better than the torture test, but the torture test is excellent too. So let me just show you that really quick, what it does. Is this actually correct? Oh, that's, sorry, that's the old, that's the other one. So there's lots of different ones. The voice ones, I never use the voice ones. That for me, they don't. I prefer to just hear pink noise. So now I've found that the up and over is the best one, or the best one that I needed to understand the system and just understand my system. So let me show you that. Bang right away. Right, so the left channel here and the sound raising all the way up into the Atmos channel. Is it the same volume? Does the sound move all the way up to your top speaker, and is it the same volume? Before this disc it was negative 2 dB low. So, and again, it's because I had no way to measure Atmos before this. I was judging what I because the sound was in front of me, these speakers are in front of me, I always thought, for now, I'm just going to leave them on 0, like the fronts, right? They're going to be on the same volume, because I just didn't really know. So this needed plus 2 dB. Now again, my brackets that I'm using, if I had better brackets and I could create a better angle, where the speaker was definitely facing me, but you still had the angle of the 10 degrees, I think that probably would be much, much better. You probably wouldn't need to do this. And as well, my Atmos speakers are slightly further back than the floor standers, right? The floor standers are in the room, and these are like kind of up there as well. So they are in some respects further away, which is fine, but yeah, this test was just absolutely incredible, because as soon as I got the volume differences between this channel, the left channel here, to the left Atmos, I was like, okay, yeah, that's it. It's perfect. And again, when this sound comes down here, there is a better one. In a minute's time, I think it comes from this point all the way up. So that's what I used there as well. But even here, is there a difference in volume here? That's all I care about, Now here, I had to kind of I had to kind of figure this out about, because I went to the speakers and I was like, well, where's the sound coming from when this happens? This is actually not the middle of the room, by the way. This is actually in the surround right channel going up to the Atmos channel. Because I was like, well, on this diagram, it's like, well, this is the middle of the room. Because in my mind, I would be like, okay, so the rear surround speaker is here, right, in this corner, and then it would go up to the Atmos speaker, but that's not how it works. And then I would assume, like on this back wall, for instance, you would have two surround sound speakers here, or back surround speakers here, and then have a surround sound speaker in the corner here. That's not how I have it actually set up, but yeah, this diagram is really showing that this is this is the surround speaker going up to the Atmos. And I just needed to make sure that's what actually was happening. So again, another great test. If you know you've got your floor speakers set up correctly, and everything has got the correct volume, when this goes up to the top, is the volume the same? The volume was not the same here for me. This is why I needed that plus 1 dB. And again, when a sound goes across and above and things like that, how does it actually sound? And go down. Now here, you're actually into the back surrounds. Just because you're in this corner, it doesn't matter. As soon as you get to the back wall here, you're into the back surrounds. And yeah, I just needed to confirm that is what's actually happening. So now it would be in a back surround, which is, for me, is actually in the kind of middle of the wall. And then it goes up to the Atmos speaker, which is, for me, in a slightly different position, because I have an Auro 3D layout. So yeah, there's some... So for me, like it did there, it came back and it went from a ground level to the Atmos. That is what I actually want to hear, because if I know the bottom speakers are set up correctly, it's just easier for me to hear a difference in sound that way. Again, that was another good one because it came from the bottom, then went up to the top. So yeah, really good evaluation tool to see what's actually going on in your system in a real world scenario. And if I measure the speakers, my rear Atmos speaker might be hot. Measuring it, my surround sound speakers, nah, they're about right actually. But if anything, they're slightly hot in volume. So yeah, this disc allowed me to do that, to just fine tune the system. And after I've done my main measurements, after that, when I get into these real world tests, now I trust my ears. Now I've put a good amount of trust into this already. Now I just need to hear it. If every speaker, again, tonally difference, there could be some tonal difference there. But now I can hear that volume perfectly and things moving around me. I just got it perfectly set up. So now there are other things on the disc. There's an impulse response, which is a from, I don't know, 15 hertz or so, maybe even 0 hertz, all the way up to 20K, just really quick, maybe over 2.5 seconds. It's a really quick one. Same with the sweep test. You can do these with timing though as well, and things like that. Then there's some periodic pink noise, which you can play again through the channels and things like that. Now, one thing I'd actually like to know is like the impulse response and say these sweep tests. Is there any way I can use these test tones from the disc itself and say tell REW, look, I don't want you to use your test tones or anything like that. I want to use what's on the disc. Because again, for me, there are slight differences in each HDMI device. It might not be absolute the same. Now, I'm not sure if you can or not, but I think that would be interesting. So, now I don't know, did I go over this? Like when I measure, I can't remember now if I actually went over this, but just really quick with the RTA measurement. So instead of measuring with the SPL meter, I measured with an RTA. The reason I do it is because it's just better for averaging. So after about 6 seconds, maybe 7 seconds, you get a great average here of what your speaker's actually doing. The reason I prefer to do that is because when you measure with an SPL meter, it's kind of jumping all over the place. Now, even in REW, right, you can set this to you can go into here, and set this to 1 second. You can set it to slow, but I'd almost prefer it a little slower, if anything. And using this method, using an RTA measurement and the way measuring in that way, gives me better averages, or just it works better for me. So I did this about a year ago. I was like, I'm going to see if I can set up my system this way, using the averages of this, and you get your average again about in about 5 to 8 seconds, maybe 10 seconds. You absolutely know. And I fine-tuned my center speaker perfectly using this method, and I've never had center speaker issues since measuring it in this way. But measuring it in an SPL way, the center speaker can be low. At this, it got me perfect volume, so that was good, So yeah, this is the disc. Really, really good. I loved it. This is exactly what I need. Finally, an Atmos disc that I can use to set my system up. And again, there's lots more things on this disc that I didn't use, and they could actually be good for, like the pairs of speakers. That could actually be really good, and things like that. So yeah. If you've used this disc, let me know how you've used it. Do you use those, the torture test, the up and overs, the object panning for me was absolutely excellent. How do you use the disc? And yeah, I mean, now I have seen a few comments like, oh, this disc isn't worth it and things like that, right? That's to you, right? But to me, spending this type of money is not a big deal to me. I spent $2,000 on my receiver. The speakers were like $3,000 to $4,000. The subs are like $500 each. I've got all my HDMI cables. They're like $150 each. All that. I've got power cables, line conditioners, all of this type of stuff, in an attempt to, get better sound. The way I see it though is my surround sound system itself, the speakers, my TV, 77-inch OLED, all that type of stuff. Yeah, right there I have a budget, right? And I really can't go over it. $1,000 for a 4K Blu-ray player. Surround sound receiver, I'm always going to be looking at around 2,000 to 3,000 at the most. I'm in that ballpark. Those prices and that don't change for me. But like REW, right? It's free. So if I use anything for more than 6 months, I donate, right? I just think it's the right thing to do. If I use something for free and it's like not a very good program or whatever, and I just don't use it again, yeah, I'm not, I don't feel like donating to that. But REW, for instance, is just an incredible program, and donating to that, and especially being this is my hobby. But a hobby is almost like the wrong word. Like, this is now my lifestyle. I've been doing this since really I was 10, 12 years old. As soon as I get into home theater, and that is really trying to understand how to set your system up. When I was younger, just a real quick story is I blew my surround sound speakers testing Speed. So at the start, the movie Speed, Keanu Reeves, at the very, very start, I think he's driving a car and he jumps over the screen, right? And the sound comes out the surround sound speakers. We had like $25 surround sound speakers, and I turned them up to like plus 12, and yeah, I blew them. So it's been a really long learning process about how to get all this balanced correctly. But yeah, this is really a lifestyle, So spending $200 on a multi EQ X app, I think it was $199. I think you can't buy this level of quality, this difference in sound without this app. You just can't do it. It's impossible. If I spent $200 more on a receiver, it's not going to make up for this. It's impossible. It cannot do it. So I don't mind spending these and this disc. This disc gave me more information about my Atmos setup than I've known since I've had an Atmos setup. And I think I've had an Atmos setup now for 5 or 6 years. Now, when I first started, it was the up-firing type speakers, which I don't advise. But even that, I had nothing really to set it up with. I had the test tones on my receiver that are probably wrong, right? And with the test tones on the receiver, I probably didn't EQ then, but I've run all this EQ on my system. When you run the test tones through the receiver, using the receiver's test tones, it turns off all of this. It turns off Odyssey. It turns off all of the EQ work that I've done, and the levels are different. The levels are completely different. So this is now the first time that I've actually set my system up properly, and I've heard it with my own ears, how things move. And to me, I see huge value in this. If you don't see value in this, then maybe you don't want to tune your system up to a particular level, and that's fine too. But to me, see, I bought from their store and it was $99, right? Now our price here, because our business is mostly we ship to Europe, right? So we just bake the prices of shipping into the price as well. So if you was from the US and you was interested in buying from our store, just contact me, and send us an email, whatever. Say, hey, can you do us a discount here? I'm from the US. We would augment all of this shipping cost. It still requires some shipping. Shipping's not free anywhere, but so yeah, if you're from the US, you can we can get this price changed for you. We'll give you a discount, right? So we could augment this. So, but yeah, for me, I think the disc is excellent. It's provided me everything that I need to get my system 95% of the way there, and now borderline 100%. It's actually set in stone, perfect. And there was no discs that I could do this with. I think there was there might have been some tones from Dolby that I used to have, but they were like full range, and again, they were just speaker placement measurements, which only get you so far. And at full range test tones, they're not good either. You need pink noise, because pink noise, it's just better to measure speakers with pink noise because of the tonal differences between the speakers is going to be less that way. It focuses more on a sound that the speaker can absolutely reproduce. So, yeah. Now, I've heard there are some other demo discs coming out this year. I won't say who they're from yet. Don't think I'm allowed to. But there's some other stuff coming out as well. So, I think it's definitely an exciting time for this. Before I go, because I was almost forgot about this. How does it sound? Yeah. Right. How does my system sound? Well, it's never sounded better. So there's two tests that I like to do right away, and that is the Batman, the road chase scene, where he flips his car over and over at the end. That has never sounded better. It's incredible how that sounds. The car's spinning all over you, around you. And another thing is when the car comes to a still, the car's upside down, and it tips back, you can just hear that being tipped back behind you. Tremendous sound. But it's not just that, it has balance too. The center channel dialogue has more balance between the fronts. I didn't quite have that before. If anything, if anything, the center channel was half a dB low before I made these measurements. And when I saw that, I was like, yeah, that makes sense now. I was hearing that. For the past 6 months or so, I have actually been hearing that slightly low dialogue. And this changed that for me. So another test is Dune. Dune on 4K Blu-ray. The sandstorm with Paul. There's a sandstorm that just smashes into Paul when the worm is about to come, but there's a sandstorm that smashes into him. The audio completely drops out, and all you can hear is particles of sand throughout the room. In my opinion, it's the best Dolby Atmos demo scene that shows that you can move sound in space, literally through a room, and you can put things anywhere. Like, that is the best demo to this day, personally, that I've ever heard for sound. And I heard that and I was shocked at the difference. It just provided more presence behind me and above me, and things moved through the room rather than just moving here and then I heard it skip a little head and then move, like on my old setup with the balance and stuff like that. The fronts took over the rears too heavily before. Now I get a smooth transition of a sound moving through the system. Again, measurements alone only got me so far. It's these other things. It's the object panning and the torture test that really do it. I just think that's worth everything to me. So, yeah, it is good value. But again, it's good value for me because this is the type of thing I'm looking for. If you're after the cheapest and easiest, quickest and setup, then this is not for you. But if you're an enthusiast and you absolutely want the best balance that your system can provide, you have to have a disc like this. So that's just my opinions. Yeah, I'll leave a link to this in the description. I will leave a link to Joe and Tel's YouTube, Techno-Dad, and if I can, I'll leave links to their actual website that they're selling this. If you're from the US, you can, and you didn't want to buy from us, say, you can buy directly from them. So I've heard the first batch is selling out really fast. This is good. So yeah, for me, excellent disc. That's exactly what I wanted. My system is set up. It's insane. I've got to watch all of my movies again now. Top Gun, Maverick. I got to hear this again because when he's banking and the sound is like this, and I could just hear it before behind me, but now what can I hear now? So balance is everything with home theater. It has to be perfectly balanced. So yeah, this is good. All right, thanks for listening and letting me ramble for however long this has been. Great job, Joe and Tel, Techno-Dad. Yeah, this is a win for me. This is everything that I needed for me. This is great. So yeah, appreciate the work and much love. Definitely, this is good. Yeah, have a great day. Leave me a comment if you got any questions about this disc. Is there something I didn't go over? I'm sure there is, because there's a lot to this disc. So yeah, just let me know in the comments. Yeah, have a great day. Thanks for listening. All right, bye.